the sleepy seaside town of Newport Beach, California, the summer of 1973 was like any other. Sunlit beaches, gentle sea breezes, and the carefree laughter of children. Among these children was 11-year-old Linda O'Keefe, a girl with a bright smile that could light up the dullest of days. Her world was simple yet full of joy, revolving around her loving family, her school, and her passions that included playing the piano and drawing. July 6th started as an ordinary day for Linda. The sun was high, the sky a clear blue, and the school day was winding to a close. As the final bell rang at the summer school she was attending, Linda gathered her things. This day, however, was different. Her bicycle, her usual mode of transport, was not with her. Linda, feeling a bit stranded, decided to call her mother from the school's phone. "Mom, can you come pick me up?" she asked, hoping for a ride home. Her mother, engrossed in her work as a seamstress at home, gently refused. "You can walk, Linda. It's not that far," she said, unaware that this decision would haunt her for the rest of her life. Reluctantly, Linda set out on foot, her journey home just over 2 kilometers, a walk she had done many times before. The route was familiar, a path treaded by her small, flip-flop-clad feet numerous times. But on this fateful day, Linda never made it home. Hours passed, and Linda's mother began to feel a gnawing sense of unease. The sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in shades of orange and purple. Evening turned to night, and the O'Keefe household was engulfed in a growing panic. Where was Linda? The disappearance of Linda O'Keefe sent shockwaves through the community. A child vanishing in broad daylight was unheard of in this tranquil town. As the night stretched on, Linda's family, gripped by fear and confusion, realized the unthinkable had happened. Their little girl had vanished into thin air. This chapter in Linda's life marked the beginning of a mystery that would remain unsolved for decades, a tale of innocence lost and a family's unending search for answers. The vanishing of Linda O'Keefe was not just a local tragedy. It was a puzzle that would baffle and haunt not just a family, but an entire community, and eventually, the nation. For the community of Newport Beach and the wider Californian law enforcement, the disappearance of Linda O'Keefe transformed into an enigma that would persist for nearly half a century. The case, with its complexities and dead ends, became a symbol of unresolved tragedy and a testament to the persistence of hope amidst despair. As years turned into decades, Linda's case settled into a perplexing cold status. Investigators, over the years, pieced together the scant clues and testimonies, but the puzzle remained incomplete. The absence of concrete evidence and the lack of advanced forensic technology at the time turned the investigation into a maze with no apparent exit. The case files of Linda O'Keefe, thickened with time, filled with theories, leads, and witness statements, but none brought them closer to the truth. Detectives changed, technologies evolved, but Linda's story remained frozen in time, a haunting reminder of a mystery unsolved. With each passing anniversary of her disappearance, the community and the police department would remember Linda, reflecting on the case that had become a dark legend in California's criminal history. It was not just a search for a missing girl. It became a relentless quest for truth in a case shrouded in mystery. The enduring nature of Linda's case captured public imagination and kept the story alive in the collective consciousness. Newspapers occasionally revisited the story, exploring various angles and theories, feeding the mythos surrounding the case. Amateur sleuths and online forums would speculate and theorize, but the truth remained elusive, buried under layers of time and faded memories. This ongoing saga was punctuated by false leads and dead ends, each raising hopes only to dash them again. The investigators, dogged in their pursuit, faced the daunting task of sifting through decades of data, trying to find that one piece of evidence that could break the case wide open. As the 21st century dawned, the field of forensic science saw remarkable advancements. DNA technology, which was in its infancy during Linda's disappearance, had now become a sophisticated tool in crime solving. This development rekindled a flicker of hope in the cold case. Could modern science finally provide the answers that had eluded investigators for so long? The legacy of Linda O'Keefe's case lies not just in its mystery, but in the enduring hope and relentless pursuit of truth by those who refuse to let her story be forgotten. It became a symbol of the unwavering human spirit that persists in the face of the unknown, a testament to the determination to bring closure to a tragedy that had lingered in the shadows for far too long. In the heart of the mystery stood Linda O'Keefe, not just as a missing person, but as a vibrant soul whose life was abruptly and inexplicably cut short. Born on May 24, 1962, in the coastal charm of Newport Beach, Linda's life was a tapestry of simple joys and youthful dreams. She grew up in a close-knit family, the middle child embraced by the love of her parents and sisters. Her father, a hard-working machinist, and her mother, a skilled seamstress, provided a nurturing home filled with warmth and laughter. Linda's days were brightened by her older and younger sisters, with whom she shared a bond that was both tender and playful. Linda's world was one of creativity and curiosity. Her fingers danced on piano keys, drawing melodies that echoed through the family home. With a pencil in hand, she brought her imagination to life on paper, her drawings a window into her youthful soul. Her love for nature and animals was evident. Linda found joy in the simple pleasures of life: the sound of waves at the beach, the sight of animals in their natural habitat, and the feel of the warm sand beneath her feet. As a Girl Scout, she explored the outdoors, learning about the environment and forging friendships that were as carefree as the summer breeze. The O'Keefe household was often filled with the sounds of laughter and music, with Linda often at the heart of it. She embodied the innocence and wonder of childhood, her spirit a blend of playfulness and quiet introspection. But Linda's life was not just confined to her home and immediate surroundings. She was an active part of her community, engaging in activities that reflected her diverse interests. From her participation in a summer school program to her involvement in Girl Scouting, Linda was always eager to learn, grow, and contribute. Her disappearance left a void that went beyond the walls of her home. It rippled through the community, touching the lives of those who knew her and even those who didn't. The mystery of what happened to Linda became intertwined with the collective consciousness of the town. Linda's story is a poignant reminder of the fragility of life and the impact one individual can have on a community. Her absence became a haunting presence, a reminder of a life full of potential that was inexplicably and tragically cut short. As the years passed, Linda's memory continued to live on, not just in the hearts of her family, but in the community that had come to symbolize her as a beacon of lost innocence. The quest to uncover the truth about her fate became not just a pursuit of justice, but a journey to keep the memory of a young, vibrant life alive. In the unfolding narrative of Linda O'Keefe's disappearance, her story transcended the boundaries of a typical missing person case. It became a poignant tale of a life cherished, a presence missed, and a mystery that beckoned for resolution. July 6, 1973, dawned like any other summer day in Newport Beach, but for Linda O'Keefe and her family, it would become a date etched in their memory forever. The events of this day unfolded innocuously, yet by its end, a mystery that would span decades had begun. Linda's morning started with the usual routine. She had been attending summer school, an activity she enjoyed, giving her a chance to indulge in her love for learning. This day, however, held a slight deviation from her norm. Linda, usually reliant on her bicycle for transportation, found herself without it. This small change set the stage for the day's tragic events. The morning at school went by uneventfully. As classes concluded around noon, Linda faced the prospect of walking home. The journey was a familiar one, just over 2 kilometers, a distance she had traversed many times. Yet on this day, she hesitated. Seeking an alternative, Linda reached out to her mother by using the school's phone. The conversation was brief. Her mother, busy with work, encouraged Linda to walk home, presuming it to be safe and routine. This decision, made with no ill intent, would later haunt her with a weight of regret. Linda's reluctance to walk was palpable. Witnesses later recalled seeing her visibly upset after the phone call. A school secretary even considered offering her a ride, but conflicting directions made this impossible. Linda, left with no other choice, began her walk home, a walk from which she would never return. The route from school to her home was a familiar path, winding through the safe, suburban streets of Newport Beach. It was a journey that should have taken no more than 30 minutes. But as minutes turned to hours, and Linda did not return home, concern began to set in. By late afternoon, Linda's absence had turned into a palpable worry for her family. Initially assuming she might have stopped to play with friends, her mother's unease grew as the hours passed. The neighborhood, typically a haven of safety, suddenly seemed ominous. As evening approached, the family's concern escalated to panic. Linda's father, upon returning from work, joined the frantic search. They scoured the neighborhood, retracing Linda's supposed route, but found no trace of her. The fading light brought a chilling realization. Something was terribly wrong. In those initial hours of search and confusion, the family clung to hope, praying for Linda's safe return. Little did they know, this was just the beginning of a long, harrowing journey that would span decades in search of answers for their beloved Linda. The disappearance of Linda O'Keefe on that summer day became a defining moment, not only for her family, but for the entire Newport Beach community. It was a day when innocence was shattered, and a mysterious void was left in its wake, marking the beginning of a long, arduous quest for answers. The dawn of July 7, 1973, brought with it a harrowing discovery that would forever change the fabric of Newport Beach. As the first rays of the morning sun touched the earth, a group of cyclists, embarking on a leisurely ride, unknowingly steered towards a grim find in a secluded park, 9 kilometers from Linda O'Keefe's home. The park, usually a place of recreation and peace, harbored a dark secret that morning. As the cyclists navigated through its paths, one of them, a father accompanied by his young son, veered off towards a ditch, hoping to spot frogs for a nature study. Instead, they stumbled upon a sight that would haunt them for years to come. The lifeless body of a young girl, partially submerged and obscured by the park's undergrowth. The discovery sent a shockwave through the serene morning. The cyclist, recalling the news of a missing girl from the previous day, felt a sinking realization that he may have found Linda O'Keefe. In a state of shock and urgency, they raced to find a phone to alert the authorities. The police arrived at the scene, a grim air of solemnity hanging over the park. The body was confirmed to be that of Linda O'Keefe, ending the frantic 24-hour search that had gripped the community. The discovery marked a tragic end to the hopes of her safe return, plunging her family and the entire town into a deep state of mourning and disbelief. The scene was a heart-wrenching sight. Linda, dressed in the clothes she had worn to school, lay still, her backpack discarded nearby. Notably, her shoes were missing, a detail that would puzzle investigators and add to the growing list of unanswered questions. The initial examination suggested a violent end to Linda's life. The nature of her demise pointed to foul play, a notion that was both terrifying and incomprehensible to the peaceful community. The realization that a killer was among them sent ripples of fear and suspicion throughout Newport Beach. As the news of the discovery spread, the community reeled in shock. The loss of a child in such horrific circumstances was a wound that ran deep. Linda, once a vibrant part of the community, was now a symbol of every parent's worst nightmare. The investigation into Linda's death began in earnest, with the police combing through the crime scene for any evidence that could lead them to the perpetrator. The park, once a haven for families and nature enthusiasts, became the center of a dark mystery that would challenge investigators for years to come. In the wake of this tragic discovery, the question on everyone's mind was who could have committed such a heinous act against an innocent child. The quest for answers had just begun, and the path to justice was fraught with twists and turns, leading investigators into the murky depths of an unsolved crime that would haunt the community for decades. In the wake of the tragic discovery of Linda O'Keefe, the Newport Beach Police Department found themselves grappling with a case that was as baffling as it was heartbreaking. The 1970s, while a time of burgeoning technological advancements, offered limited forensic capabilities, posing significant challenges to the investigation. The detectives, seasoned yet unprepared for a case of such magnitude, dove into the investigation with a mix of determination and desperation. They scoured the crime scene, seeking any evidence that could provide a lead. The absence of Linda's shoes, the condition of her clothes, and the location of her body were all meticulously documented. Yet these clues offered more questions than answers. One of the most critical pieces of evidence was the biological samples found on Linda's body. However, the science of DNA profiling, which would later revolutionize criminal investigations, was not yet developed. This meant that while investigators had potential evidence, they lacked the means to fully utilize it in identifying the perpetrator. The early stages of the investigation saw detectives canvassing the area, interviewing potential witnesses, and following up on every lead, no matter how insignificant it seemed. They delved into Linda's life, seeking to understand her last movements and interactions. Every acquaintance, every sighting, every unusual occurrence around the time of her disappearance was scrutinized. Despite their efforts, the case was met with frustrating dead ends. Potential suspects were questioned, but without concrete evidence, the leads fizzled out. The community, gripped by fear and sorrow, yearned for justice, but as days turned into weeks and weeks into months, the case began to grow cold. The lack of advanced forensic techniques meant that investigators had to rely heavily on traditional methods of policing, witness statements, suspect interrogations, and piecing together a timeline of events. However, the elusive nature of the perpetrator and the absence of eyewitnesses to the crime made these methods insufficient. As the investigation progressed, it became increasingly clear that solving the case would require more than what the available technology and techniques could offer. The case of Linda O'Keefe, fraught with mystery and tragedy, became emblematic of the limitations faced by law enforcement in that era. This chapter in the investigation was marked by relentless effort, hampered by the constraints of the time. It underscored the harsh reality that some cases, despite the best efforts of dedicated detectives, remain unsolved, not for lack of trying, but for lack of technological advancement. The case of Linda O'Keefe thus settled into a somber wait, a wait for a breakthrough that would come only with the passage of time and the evolution of forensic science. It was a wait filled with hope and despair, as the quest for answers continued in the shadow of technological limitations. Years after Linda O'Keefe's unsolved case had etched itself into the community's psyche, an unexpected development arose. In a twist that momentarily rekindled hope for resolution, a young man named Peter Wooten, just 18 years old and connected to Linda's world, stepped forward with a shocking admission. He confessed to being responsible for Linda's demise. Peter, who lived near the O'Keefe family and attended the same school as Linda's sister, was an unexpected figure in this unfolding drama. His confession, while startling, brought a surge of mixed emotions: relief that the perpetrator might have been found, but also horror at the thought of such a crime being committed by someone so young and so close to the victim's circle. The investigators, weary from years of dead ends, approached this new lead with a mix of skepticism and urgency. They delved deep into interrogating Peter, hoping to finally unravel the mystery that had haunted them for so long. The interrogation sessions were exhaustive, stretching over several hours as detectives probed every detail of Peter's story. As the investigation into Peter's confession progressed, cracks began to appear in his account. The details he provided were inconsistent, and crucial elements of his story did not align with the known facts of the case. It became increasingly clear to the detectives that Peter's confession was riddled with inaccuracies and improbabilities. The possibility that Peter's confession was false introduced a new layer of complexity to the case, False confessions, though rare, were not unheard of, and could stem from various psychological reasons. The detectives pondered over what could have driven a young man to falsely confess to such a heinous crime. After exhaustive investigation and comparison of Peter's confession against the evidence, the detectives concluded that his admission was indeed false. There were too many discrepancies, and nothing substantive linked him to the crime scene or to Linda on the day of her disappearance. The revelation that Peter's confession was false was a significant setback. It not only meant that the case was back to square one, but it also raised questions about why he would falsely implicate himself in such a serious crime. The community, briefly buoyed by the hope of closure, found themselves plunged back into the mystery. Peter's false confession added yet another chapter to the already complex narrative of Linda's case. It underscored the challenges faced in solving a case with limited evidence and highlighted the psychological complexities that can sometimes intersect with criminal investigations. The case, thus, remained unsolved, with the false confession serving as a poignant reminder of the meandering path that the quest for truth can take in the murky waters of a decades-old mystery. As the 21st century dawned, bringing with it significant advancements in forensic science, the case of Linda O'Keefe was on the brink of a breakthrough. The key lay in the burgeoning field of DNA analysis, a technology that had evolved substantially since Linda's disappearance. In 2001, almost 3 decades after the tragic events, investigators made a pivotal decision. They revisited the biological samples collected from Linda's case, which had been meticulously preserved, hoping that modern DNA techniques could shed new light on the identity of the perpetrator. The decision to re-examine the evidence with contemporary DNA profiling techniques marked a turning point in the investigation. The samples, previously a dead end due to technological limitations, were now potential goldmines of information. Forensic experts set to work, extracting DNA and creating a profile that could be compared against criminal databases. This renewed approach injected fresh hope into the investigation. The DNA profile extracted from the evidence was a significant leap forward. For the first time, investigators had a tangible scientific lead that could potentially link a suspect to the crime. The process, however, was not straightforward. Despite having a DNA profile, there was no immediate match in the existing criminal databases. This suggested that the perpetrator might not have had previous run-ins with the law, or at least none that had resulted in a DNA sample being taken. The lack of a direct match was a setback, but not a dead end. DNA technology was not just about matching profiles. It was also about potential. As databases expanded and more individuals were added, the chances of finding a match increased. The investigators knew that patience was key. The DNA was an enduring piece of evidence that could withstand the test of time. The introduction of DNA analysis into the case represented a fusion of past and present, an old mystery being tackled with new tools. It was a testament to the evolving nature of criminal investigation and a beacon of hope that even the coldest of cases could be warmed up with the right technological advances. As the years passed, the DNA profile remained a crucial piece of the puzzle, awaiting the day when it would find its match and unlock the secrets that had been buried for decades. The case of Linda O'Keefe, once stymied by the limitations of its time, was now poised at the forefront of forensic science, ready for the moment when science and circumstance would align to reveal the truth. As the years continued to pass, Linda O'Keefe's case lingered in the realm of unsolved mysteries, a haunting reminder of a truth yet undiscovered. However, the unwavering efforts of the detectives and the relentless march of technological progress finally converged in 2018, bringing about a groundbreaking development. In a bold move, the Newport Beach Police Department turned to a private laboratory specializing in genetic genealogy, a field that had recently gained attention for its success in solving cold cases. This innovative approach involved using the DNA profile obtained from a crime scene to trace the family lineage of the unknown perpetrator. The process was meticulous and complex, involving the analysis of genetic markers and the construction of family trees based on DNA similarities. This method had the potential to point investigators towards relatives of the suspect, narrowing down the search in a way that was previously impossible. After months of painstaking research and collaboration with genealogy experts, the team uncovered a crucial lead. They identified a distant relative of the perpetrator, a breakthrough that drastically reduced the scope of their search. This was a monumental step forward, transforming the DNA from a mere piece of evidence into a beacon that could guide them to the killer. The investigators, armed with this new information, began to piece together the family tree, tracing the lineage and connections. Each branch, each name brought them closer to the person who had eluded justice for so long. Finally, the diligent work of genealogists and detectives bore fruit. They identified a man named James Neal, whose genetic profile was a match to the evidence from the crime scene. Neal, now in his 70s, was living a seemingly ordinary life, unaware that the advancements in DNA technology had finally caught up to him. This discovery was a testament to the power of perseverance and innovation. The intersection of traditional detective work and cutting-edge science had achieved what had seemed impossible for decades. The revelation of James Neal as the suspect was a moment of profound vindication for the investigators and a bittersweet breakthrough for those who had longed for justice in Linda's case. The arrest of Neal marked a significant milestone in the journey for justice, turning a page in a chapter that had remained open for far too long. It was a moment that honored the memory of Linda O'Keefe, whose life had been tragically cut short, but whose story had never been forgotten. The arrest of James Neal in early 2019 brought a profound sense of closure to the decades-long mystery of Linda O'Keefe's disappearance and demise. This moment, leaden with emotion, marked the end of an arduous journey for Linda's family, the investigators, and the Newport Beach community. Neal's apprehension was not just the culmination of a relentless investigation. It was a testament to the evolution of forensic science and the dedication of those who refused to let Linda's case fade into obscurity. The breakthrough, brought about by advanced DNA analysis and genealogical research, offered a final piece to the puzzle that had remained incomplete for 45 years. As the news of Neal's arrest spread, it brought a complex mix of relief, sorrow, and reflection. For Linda's family, it was a long-awaited answer to a painful question that had haunted them for nearly half a century. While nothing could bring Linda back, there was solace in knowing that justice was finally within reach. The community, which had been shaken by Linda's disappearance and had lived under the shadow of an unresolved tragedy, found a sense of peace. The resolution of the case served as a reminder that even the coldest cases could be solved, offering hope to other families waiting for answers. Neal, facing the consequences of a crime committed in his youth, was a stark embodiment of a past that had caught up with him. His arrest and subsequent trial brought to light the details of the crime and offered insights into his life and possible motives, painting a picture of a troubled individual who had lived among them unnoticed. However, the final chapter of this story took an unexpected turn. Before the case could be fully resolved in court, James Neal passed away due to health complications, leaving a lingering sense of unfinished justice. His death, while bringing an end to the legal proceedings, left unanswered questions and a void where a full confession or explanation might have been. For the detectives and everyone involved in the case, the resolution brought a mix of professional satisfaction and personal introspection. The journey through the years had been a testament to their perseverance, a journey marked by evolving technology, changing personnel, and the unwavering desire to seek the truth. The story of Linda O'Keefe, from her tragic disappearance to the final arrest decades later, is a powerful narrative about the resilience of the human spirit, the advancements in science, and the enduring quest for justice. It serves as a poignant reminder of the impact one life can have and the ripples it sends through time and community. As the final chapter closes on this long-standing case, Linda's memory lives on, not just as a victim of a tragic crime, but as a symbol of hope, perseverance, and the relentless pursuit of truth. Her story, etched into the annals of Newport Beach's history, continues to resonate, a reminder that justice, no matter how delayed, is a pursuit worthy of time, effort, and faith.